Real quick, we're going to go over two of the most common situations when it comes to cutting up room tone. I have two examples here. The one on the left is for an in-house session, typically very, very clean room tone. And then the one on the right is from an external session where you have to pay a little bit more attention. So the one on the left, the very clean, you can see when you zoom all the way in, you can go all the way in. There's not a lot of axes to work with. So you can pick a point anywhere you know that you'll have 4 or 5 seconds of audio and drop a marker. And then usually I start with the biggest amount of room tone first. So in this case, it might be 3500. That's going to be your biggest piece of room tone. You can see it's got plenty of room on both sides. And if this was the day one, your exclamation mark, 350. Go to your length, 500, 250. Change it to 2. And you can see the room tone keeps getting smaller and smaller. $150. $100. $850. $65. 5. And your 35. So typically that's as long as it's going to take to catch a room tone out of a really clean piece of audio. When you have a little bit more of a signal from an external studio, the idea is to make sure that you make all of your room tone cuts as the waveform is crossing the axes. So you'll zoom all the way in and find right where that crosses. And that's where your marker starts. And from there, when you do your longest piece, you'll go to the end, zoom all the way in, and move it to where it crosses on the way up. So you hold your shift key down and drag to where it crosses that axis right there. And you'll see it's not exactly 350 anymore, but it's close enough. The idea is to catch that crossing point more than the exact length. And if this is day 2, then you can use the @ sign, 350. Go to 250. And when you hit the W key, it'll go right to the end. Find that axis, and it's right there. If you name it incorrectly, double click it, rename it correctly. Go to 200. Find where that axis is on the way up. $150. Find this one right here. And so on through 85, 65, 50, and 35. And the very small number of the 350 will be pretty tight in there, but here's your crossing point. So the idea is if you're putting room tone in, even though you should be using fades in most instances, especially with noisier room tone, if you cut right on those axes, you're less likely to get issues during the mastering phase. And you'll see everything is nice and labeled clearly over here. If you have more than 2 days, you just keep working your way through different indicators at the front.